Welcome to Answer the Question. Today, we're going to be talking about pardons, because in the twilight hours of his presidency, President Joe Biden released a series of pardons for people such as his family members, Anthony Fauci, and the members of the January 6th Insurrection Investigation Committee. Which might seem weird to you because none of these people have been charged with a crime. So, there's a threshold question. Can he do that? The answer is surprisingly, yes. The general right for the president to pardon people for crimes comes from Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, which says, he, the president, shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Notably, this phrasing gives the power some limits, the obvious one being that you cannot pardon yourself during impeachment proceedings. But the less obvious one is that the offenses against the United States piece actually restricts the power to only allow the president to pardon federal crimes, meaning that it doesn't cover any convictions under state criminal statutes, and it also doesn't cover any convictions for state or federal civil claims. Now, this still doesn't say anything that specifically allows for preemptive pardons, or pardons before anybody has even been accused of a crime. But that is allowed, and the official rule actually comes from an 1886 Supreme Court case, Ex parte Garland, which says that the pardon power is able to be exercised either before legal proceedings are taken, or during their pendency, or after conviction and judgment. And so for preemptive pardons, the important part is that first bit, before legal proceedings are taken. Even with this rule, though, you do still need to specify what they're being pardoned for, even if they haven't been accused of it. Because the pardon power cannot be used to grant future immunity to any crimes. The way that they do this usually, and you can actually see examples of it here, is you'll say that you're pardoned for everything that you did over this time period for this reason. So for example, Anthony Fauci's pardon reads, a full and unconditional pardon for any offenses against the United States which he may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through the date of this pardon, which was January 19th, 2025, arising from or in any manner related to his service as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, as a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, or the White House COVID-19 response team, or as chief medical advisor to the president. One quick tangent, you may think that it's really weird that the pardon power is this broad, that you can use it preemptively, that you don't really need to specify crimes. But actually, this is one of the rare cases where it isn't because something was vague and the power got expanded. The founders thought about this and intentionally made the pardon power this way. Maryland delegate Luther Martin actually proposed limiting the pardon power to after convictions by adding that text to the clause we looked at earlier. And they debated this and decided not to do it because they wanted to be able to pardon accomplices and use it as leverage. Okay, so enough of that. Back to the current pardons. So they're legal, and we actually have seen pardons like this before. What's extraordinary this time, or what's different about these pardons, is that they're specifically being given in fear that the next regime coming in, Trump's regime, is going to retaliate against these people who pushed back on his policies. And if you're wondering why Biden's team might be so worried about this, check out this clip.
And Cheney was behind it, and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did. Yeah. Honestly, they should go to jail.
Now, as a counterpoint to that, here's what he says right after that.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
But again, counterpoint to the counterpoint, he thought it was important enough to mention in his inauguration.
And I was going to talk about the things that Joe did today with the pardons of people that were very, very guilty of very bad crimes, like the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs.
And while you might be tempted to say that this is just Trump being Trump, the people who would have had to prosecute these people have repeatedly underscored Trump's points here. For example, his nominee for Attorney General, Pam Bondi, did not rule out in her Senate nomination hearing the potential to prosecute the congressional members on the January 6th investigation committee. Similarly, his nominee for the FBI director, Kash Patel, actually published a book in 2023 called Government Gangsters, which identified in a list 60 deep state enemies that he thought should be taken down. And some of the names that were pardoned were on this list. Now, ultimately, the issue is moot because the pardons that Biden issued are legal and they'll stand. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys. What do you think? Do you think the pardons from Biden were a good idea? Do you think they were even necessary? Do you think Trump was going to use the DOJ to actually pursue prosecution against people who disagreed with his agenda? Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you like this kind of content, give the video a like so that we know to make more of this stuff. We're still trying to figure out exactly what you guys are most interested in here. Hope to see you next time.